Alright, this is a 590 cylinder and a 620 cylinder. Visible differences, looks like this bridge here in a 590 looks slightly wider than on the 620. Maybe I can line them up like this. Yeah. So it looks slightly wider. They got different casting numbers on them. This one says P, this one says H, and then that one's E1, that one's E3. Timing differences. Intakes are exactly the same. Transfers land at way different points. Now, on these two cylinders, they both had base cuts. The 590 cylinders had a band cut because this is going to be a test mule cylinder. It's just set to how far I can push these for work builds, and then how far you can push them going all out. So I drew some lines in here. The lines are the stock timing numbers for a 620, at least what I timed it out. I timed it out at 78 on the intake, 105 exhaust, and then, you know, I couldn't tell if that was 125 or 126 on the transfer. The primary is just a hair higher than the secondary, maybe a degree or two, but just enough that you can see. So anyway, my lines are 105 exhaust and 106 or 126 on transfer. Here's 620 cylinder, and I'm going to shine some light in there. Hopefully it isn't fairly difficult to get a good view inside a cylinder. I had it and then it went away. We're gonna focus. That might do it. Okay, so if you see down at the bottom of the transfer, I mean at the top of the upper transfer, there's a black line. This might work better if I take the phone out of the stand. Alright. We have a black line at the top of the transfers here. It basically lands at the top of the bevel on the transfer. That is 126 degrees from top dead center. On the exhaust, same thing. Marked it at 105. That line lands at the top of the chamfer. That's 105 degrees, stock timing. So the reason why they're higher is because the base has been cut. You know, we took stock squish was 20 thousandths. This one measured out at, I mean, stock squish was 40 thousandths. This one measured at 20 when we were done. So, I mean, that's 20 thousandths right there. It's not a whole lot of material. If you want to blind port one of these, they kind of have it set up for you already. You're just going to take your ports out to where the chamfer is, where the chamfer ends, and then you just put a new chamfer in. And that works on the exhaust too. I measured it out. If you know, if you're blind porting or doing a base gasket delete, that'll put you back at stock numbers with a little bit of added compression. And yeah, it'll make it run better. But if you're using a timing wheel, then use the timing wheel to your advantage and change the numbers around to something that runs a little hotter. So here we get into the difference between the 620 and the 590. Here's your 590 cylinder with 620 timing marks. Real easy to see those transfers got to come up a long way to match the 620. The 590 has other limitations to it. The venturi on the carburetor is smaller, and the timing is not as aggressive. This is just done to add longevity to the saw. They sell these at Home Depot, and not everyone that buys a chainsaw at Home Depot knows how to use a chainsaw. So they're made to kinda hold up to a little bit of abuse. You know, you shouldn't go unnecessarily abusing your equipment, but these are a little more forgiving for a absolute beginner novice user. Now you can see, here's the big difference, is the exhaust port height. I want to say this was like 113 degrees is what it timed out to, and that line is 105. That's another big restrictor in the 590. It does not want to scream because the exhaust is so low. Same with the transfer ports. It just makes your power peak way sooner the way it's timed out. But this one has 22 thousandths out of the band, so it ended up taking 12 and 26. I ended up taking 38 thousandths out of it, 38 thousandths out of the squish from stock. That's why the band had to be cut, and the base had to be cut, and then I'm not going to run a base gasket. So 22 out the band, 26 off the base, and 12 thousandths if you count for the base gasket, which that's irrelevant. But this should highlight the difference between the 590 and 620 cylinders. Here you can see where that's the only lower work I'm going to do to them, because the transfers are massive, and you have a full circle piston, but that's a whole lot of area exposed where you're trying to compress a charge. So they don't need to be any bigger than that. That just matches the base gasket. And then you can see here the area that's going to come out. Not a whole lot. But anyway, 620, 590.